Good afternoon, everyone. Last week was a very challenging week for us, taking on the two Georgia schools. We played Georgia Southern on Thursday, and then on Wednesday, excuse me, and then Georgia State on Friday. The Georgia Southern game was kind of a tale of two halves and two games. Earlier in the year when we beat Georgia Southern at their place, we made 13 threes, and this time I think they made 13 threes, and that was the difference in the basketball game. And then we had to transition very quickly to Georgia State on Friday, a nationally televised game, a team that had beaten us in Atlanta, a team that had made 13 threes against us, and we were to come up with a big win on Friday. I thought our defense was the main reason for that. We took away those threes that Georgia State wanted to shoot. As I said, they made 13 earlier in the year. They only made 6 on Friday, and that was the difference in the basketball game. I also want to say that the crowd on Friday was outstanding. We were very appreciative for their support from the community, and especially the student body. They were loud and proud. We could hear them. I know the Georgia State team could hear them, and we're going to need that same type of support on Saturday as we take on in-state rival Monroe. And with that, I'll take questions.
Coming off of 3 straight losses by double digits, how important was it to be able to get that win against Georgia State, especially as good as they are, to try to maybe change things around?
Well, every game is important. The most important game on your schedule is the next game on the schedule. But having lost three in a row, your back's a little bit against the wall at this time of year. And when you have to come in and play Georgia Southern and Georgia State in the same week, Georgia Southern was our 3rd straight loss. We played Georgia State. You know, you've got to find a way to get things done, and you only have 1 day of preparation in between. You got to give a lot of credit to our staff and our players, with most of that going to the players. They executed the game plan, especially defensively, and they weren't feeling sorry for themselves after the loss to Georgia Southern. They knew it was going to be a big game against Georgia State because of the fact that it was nationally televised, and they responded to the challenge. Georgia State's a very good basketball team. They're hard to beat, home or away, and I thought our guys responded in a big way on Friday night.
What else are you guys really working on defensively? Last week, Coach Martin was saying this is probably one of the worst defensive teams he's had, so you guys obviously stepped up in this last game, but what are you still working on?
Well, here's how you're going to score in today's college basketball game. You're going to make threes, free throws, offensive rebounds, and drives to the basket. You can't take away all 4. If you can take away 2 of the 4, you give yourself a chance to win. The most important of those is the three-point shot. This is where college basketball is today. If you make more threes than the other team, more than likely you're going to win the basketball game. Like I said, earlier in the year, Georgia State made 13 threes. They made 6 of those threes in transition, and that kills your momentum, offensively and defensively, if you're on the other end of that, where you're giving up transition threes. Against us on Friday night, they only made 6. So, you know, you have to defend the three-point line, and you're almost better off giving up a 2 versus a 3. Do the math. I have a public school education. You'll have to excuse me, but you come out ahead. The other thing is you got to be careful with your fouling. You don't want to put teams to the free throw line. That's the way you're going to score. And Georgia State struggled from the free throw line. We were very good from the free throw line on Friday. So those 2 areas alone, taking away some of their threes, getting to the free throw line, converting on those free throws, enabled us to win the basketball game. And then offensive rebounding, a lot has to do with the other team and how hard they go to the glass. Georgia State's not a great offensive rebounding team, so we knew there were going to be opportunities for us to not give up second shots, and that's really hurt us in the past with our defense, is giving up second shots. Not the primary shot, whether it's a good shot or a bad shot, but it's giving up the second shot on an offensive rebound, which your opponent converts. That makes it really tough on your defense. I don't know that you can be good enough defensively if you're giving up transition threes and offensive rebounds. I don't care who you are. You know, it's hard to sustain a lead. It's hard to overcome a deficit when you're doing that. And that's something we corrected on Friday. Once again, that's to the players' credit. We took away the transition 3. Their 3 guards, all right, made 10 of 16 threes in Atlanta. They were 2 for 9 on Friday, and that was the difference in the basketball game.
How did you stop the bleeding? I'm sorry. I mean, it was a 21-0 run. You know, from the end of the first half to the beginning of the second, didn't score a point until I think 14 minutes to go in the game.
Right.
For a team that was lacking confidence, how did they not completely lose confidence in themselves at that point?
Well, I think you have to give a lot of credit to the staff and to Coach Marlin. He never panicked. When he's in the timeouts, he doesn't panic. And we're not calling plays, pulling things out of thin air, or trying to draw things up that we haven't worked on. You know, just stay with what you're doing. And I thought we were able to do that. And it came our way. I never saw a look of desperation or concern or lack of confidence in our players' face during that run by Georgia State. We knew that was going to happen, but I thought the guys stayed with it, that we were constantly during timeouts telling them, hey, guys, it's one possession at a time. You can't win the game or lose the game on one shot. So let's just keep doing what we're doing. Let's do what we worked on. Let's, execute the game plan, and we'll be fine. And it turned out that way. But when a team like Georgia State goes on a 21-0 run, it is very hard to overcome that. But I think because of the fact that we had such a good start, and we were so good defensively in the first half, right, especially guarding the three-point line and not giving up transition threes, that enabled us to win the game late because we did come up with some big defensive stops late to win the game.
How does a week like this help you guys just get ready for the future? You only have one game.
At this time of year, rest is very important. And it's more mental rest than physical rest. And I think people don't understand that. Sure, guys have, back aches, knee aches, elbows. Some might have a brain ache. Some might have a rear end ache, depending on how much they get chewed on. But, it's really the mental rest. Because at this time of year, everybody's tired, everybody's nicked up, everybody has things they're going through academically as well as athletically. And so I think the mental rest for a couple days does you just as much good as the physical rest.
How much of a difference maker is it when Wesley gives you the spark that he did in the second half? And what do you see as his biggest asset?
Well, when someone like Malik Marquetti goes down, somebody has to step up. And we've had different guys do that throughout the conference schedule. It was Trajan's turn on Friday. And he struggled a little bit in the first half, but man, was he money in the second half. Scored 10 points in 15 minutes, came up with a couple big steals, a big and one on a drive. This cat's 5'7", right? He can only play one way to compete, and that's play hard. And that's play physical and give 100%. Otherwise, he can't compete. And he does that every day in practice. This is nothing new. We see this all the time. And he's still not 100%. You watch him run around, you can still see that ankle's bothering him a little bit. So what a big stage for him to come through in the second half on national TV against, a very good Georgia State team who has a guard in Simons who people are talking about as a possible draft pick. Trajan was huge, not to mention big. He was really good for us.
What about with Russell? What did he do to kind of regain his confidence and find his groove coming off that injury in the summer?
I tell you what was so important for our team and for Cedric was the very first possession of the game. We had talked about being more disciplined on offense, not slowing the game down, not taking the air out of basketball, but making sure we get a good shot. If you have a good shot, try to get a better shot. And that first possession was so critical to the tempo and the pace we set very early in that game. We made 5 or 6 passes, the ball changed sides of the floor 2 times, and Cedric found himself at the top of the key with a 3-point shot, hit it in rhythm, nothing but net. And that set the table for us really for the next 5 or 6 possessions because we made our first 3 threes of the game, all off a patient offense, disciplined offense. And I think for Cedric, that really helped. Although he didn't have a great night from the 3-point line, there were times he made 4 threes, and all were at really critical times in the basketball game. When you look at a basketball game, and Dave, going to your question about 21-point deficit, there's 5 or 6, maybe 7 possessions in a game that are going to determine the outcome of the game. And you've got to have players that are willing to step up and make that play defensively or offensively. And the first possession of the game, because every possession counts, was critical to his success and our success for the night.
Did he struggle with, after the injury, did he struggle with, getting his stroke back?
Yeah, the foot bothered him. He couldn't play in Cuba his freshman year, and then he had a solid freshman season, but we had great depth last year. So we could give him plenty of rest. He needs to play more minutes this year, hurt the foot again during the summer, and it's something that's always a little bit of a concern for him because let's face it, like Bruce Jenner said in the '72 Olympics, feet don't fail me now. And when you have a foot injury or an ankle injury, the only real way to address that is once the season is over because you need, concentrated rest that you don't get during the year. And he's found a way to fight through that.
76 Olympics.
76 Olympics, my bad. But feet don't fail me now.
So, confidence, what did that win? Because y'all didn't just lose 3 games. You lost 3 games by, double figures. So, confidence-wise, what did that do? And what does that do for your realistic hopes from here on out in the conference?
Well, from a confidence standpoint, it doesn't really matter who you play. What you want to do is play well. But when you compound that you've got the preseason #1 team coming in with a preseason player of the year coming in, on a national television audience, yeah, that does add some spice to the recipe. And I thought the guys responded extremely well. Now, listen, I'm a big believer, and so is Coach Marlin. You know, when the dogs bark, the caravan's got to move on. Friday was a great win, but now we're looking at Monroe. But you can't overstate the value of a player feeling good about his performance when he plays hard, executes, and gets the job done. You can't overvalue that. And I think that'll serve us very, very well. Because, listen, there were some doubters. You know, there were some naysayers. There were some guys saying, hey, you lose this game, your season's over. You know, it wasn't. It wouldn't have been. But we came through in a big way on Friday against a very good opponent. And you can't say enough about the players' resiliency to do that with a one-day turnaround after losing a very disappointing game to Georgia Southern.
You talk about the Stroman-Ertl matchup this weekend?
You know, Earl's playing really well, and so is Smith. I think right now, Smith from Monroe is playing as good or not better than anybody in the league. I mean, what he did last week against the two Georgia schools, you know, in the 30s, was something else. This is a transfer from Wichita State that can really score. He can beat you to the basket, but he can really shoot it. Quick release. And Ertl, in conference games, I think is number 8 or 9 in scoring. You know, and this kid has kind of come out of nowhere. When Monroe put them into their starting lineup last year as a freshman, that really turned their season. And now he's an experienced veteran as a sophomore. He's a tough match. He's a lot like Trey. He's a little bigger, but he can only succeed by doing one thing, and that's playing hard. And he plays hard every possession. He's left-handed, a little bit unorthodox, has great body balance. He can get you moving and leaning defensively, and he can come back from that jab step or that shoulder dip and get a quality shot off. It's going to be a challenge. It was a hard guard for us up there, and he and Smith are going to be challenges for our defense on Saturday, to be sure.
What's the difference with having this game at home this time around for you guys?
Well, we're at home. The biggest issue is, can we get the crowd to come out? I don't think, listen, we are so appreciative, and I want to get this point across. The crowd was great on Friday, and the student section was the best I've ever seen it. And when you have that kind of environment, the players feed off of that. They recognize that. They understand that. They appreciate that. And it does help. It's the sixth man. I don't care if it's a pro organization, a high school organization. I don't care what the sport is. When you have a crowd that's into the game from tip to horn, it really helps you, and it allows you to get that extra punch, that little bit more of that little bit, you know, that little extra something you need in the last 2 or 3 minutes in the game when everyone's tired.
So what do you guys want to fix from the first game? Obviously,
Well, I think the important thing is not let them score 99 points. You know, that's probably a good start. We can't let them score 99 points. I mean, we scored 95. You should be able to win when you score 95 points. I don't care if you're home, road, you know, neutral site, playing in somebody's basement or in the garage. You know, credit ULM though; they did a great job offensively. We're going to be able to score. We know that. The question is, you know, how are we going to handle the ball screen, especially the Florida screen at the top of the key, and can we cool down Smith from the perimeter, and can we keep Ertl in front of us? That's going to be a real challenge. And then you've got Munnings behind those two, who is very capable of having a big day. So we have to play better defense, and we've got to rebound the ball. And listen, I know you guys focusing a lot about defense and points and shooting percentages, but when you give up second shots, it can crush your team defensively. And for the last 5 years, we have been not one of the best, but the best rebounding team in this league, and one of the best rebounding teams in the country with Sean Long and Bryce Washington. Think about that. We were great, not good, but we were great rebounding the basketball. We knew that was going to be a challenge this year because of graduation, all right? And guys have found a way along the way to do that. We didn't give up second shot opportunities against Georgia State. That's why we won the game. We can't give up second shot opportunities against ULM if we want to win the game.
I guess you want to avoid the slow start, too, in the second game.
Yeah, avoiding a slow start's another good one. Not giving up 99 and avoiding a slow start is a great way to win the basketball game. I'm also going to suggest we score one more point than the opponent. I think that'll go a long way as well. You know, so this is going to be a very competitive game. It's alumni night. There's going to be a lot of ex-players, a lot of ex-Cajuns in town, so we're looking forward to that.
You talked about rebounding. How has Justin Miller kind of evolved as a rebounder? You know, having to fill in for Bryce Washington.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, listen, you can't replace Bryce because he just ate the basketball up. He had big hands. He could rebound out of his area. Not many guys can rebound out of their area. Sean Long could, and so could Bryce Washington in a big way. Justin had 13 rebounds in Atlanta, and he had 13 rebounds on Friday. And that is a major reason why we win basketball games, is our ability to rebound. Get second shots, don't give up second shots. But it can't be just him. We've also got to be able to rebound from our guard position, and I think Stroman's got the ability to do that. He's a tough guy with big hands, and when the ball hits his hands, he comes up with it. So if we can get Marcus rebounding on a consistent basis and get some second shot opportunities, which he has done, it'll go a long way in determining our success. But rebounding is something that I think gets overlooked really quickly when you look at points you give up and shooting percentages and your defense. You know, you give up second shots, you make it really tough.